Thank you, panelists, for joining me today, and to our audience who will be watching this discussion all over the world for the International Youth Dance Health Alliance's 2025 Awareness Week. Today, we're talking about relative energy deficiency, or REDs for short, a condition that dancers and athletes are at increased risk of developing and which can have some serious impacts on our health and functioning. My name is Jaimie Tapper. I'm an organizational psychologist and coach, and I work with professional and vocational dancers, including heading up performance coaching and development at the Royal Ballet Company, and as a performance coach at the Royal Ballet School and the National Ballet School of Canada. Prior to retraining as a psychologist, I was a professional dancer, first with the National Ballet of Canada and then with the Royal Ballet Company. I'm looking forward to moderating this discussion, which is focused on this important issue for student dancers. And I'm very grateful to be able to introduce three esteemed panelists who will be helping us to better understand REDs. First, we have Dr. Friederike Michlmayr. Rika studied psychology in Germany, specializing in sports psychology. She then moved to Austria, doing a PhD on the prevention of eating disorders in female athletes. Rika worked with elite athletes and younger athletes, especially in endurance sports and gymnastics, all sports where weight is a relative factor for success. So she has lots of experience with REDs. Rika further specialized in child safeguarding and is currently the leader of the child safeguarding team of the Vienna State Opera, which includes the Ballet Academy. Next, we have Clara Superfine. Clara is an artist, activist, and social safety professional based in Amsterdam. Born in North Carolina, Clara received her ballet training at the UNC School of the Arts, continuing on with the American Ballet Theatre JKO School and Studio Company in New York City. Afterwards, Clara moved to the Netherlands to join Dutch National Ballet. Her passion for empowering artists led Clara to co-fund Dancers Amplified, a global collective developing best practices for anti-racist and equitable future in the concert dance field. She also co-organized the Bodily Autonomy and Integrity cohort, which is researching the possibilities for self-advocacy within the collective body. She is currently working with the Dance Safe Alliance, a project funded by the Dutch government to make dance socially safer. Alongside her professional work, Clara is pursuing a master's degree in arts and cultural enterprise at the University of Arts London. And finally, we have Stephen McRae. Stephen is father to three young children, is a husband and a principal dancer of the Royal Ballet in London. After winning a scholarship at the Prix de Lausanne to attend the Royal Ballet School, Stephen joined the Royal Ballet Company in 2004. He's danced all of the major repertoire of the company and created new works with today's leading choreographers. Guest appearances include the Bolshoi Ballet, American Ballet Theatre, National Ballet of Japan, Australian Ballet, National Ballet of Canada, Tokyo Ballet, as well as gala performances all over the world. Stephen has a degree in business management and leadership and a master's degree in marketing. He is the artistic director of Verden Ballasten, a Danish summer festival, and is passionate about nurturing future generations of dancers, as well as ensuring the world of dance continues to flourish as a powerful force for good. Welcome, everyone. So, Rika, to start us off, would you give us a brief introduction to what relative energy deficiency, or REDs, is?
Yes. First of all, thank you for inviting me. I'm really glad to be here. And I have to say, I really doesn't distinguish between dancing and sports, because for me it's practice, physical activity, which needs a lot of energy. And so if you have a mismatch in energy intake and in energy outtake, this comes to so-called low energy availability, in short, LEA. And if you suffer for a long time or in a severe way, this LEA, it can come or it will come to REDs, which means you have a relative energy deficiency syndrome. And this could lead to physiological or psychological problems, impaired well-being, or an increase of injury risk, and at least a decreased performance. So this, in short, is my definition for REDs.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Rika. Okay, for a little bit of a different perspective, I'm going to turn to Clara and Stephen because I understand that you both have personal experience of REDs. So can you tell us a little bit about what it feels like to have REDs? And maybe Clara, we'll start with you.
Thank you. Yes, I'm so happy to join all of you and especially discuss such an important topic, and grateful that this is being organized. For me personally, REDs looked like the sort of culmination and layering of symptoms that Rika just described. And for example, I lost my period for 5 years when I was a professional dancer. I had, in general, the sense that I was tired throughout my rehearsals, but then also after it and also on rest days. It felt like I couldn't be my full self. And that was more on the physical side of it. On the mental and emotional side, it also felt like there was this like a sort of shift in internally, that the joy of dance that I had was at threat because of this lack of energy. And that was a real red flag for me as I was performing and dancing.
Thank you so much, Clara. So just to reflect back, so there were some physical symptoms, so things like losing
Mhm.
your period for a number of years, um,
Mhm.
but also this kind of maybe internal sense of things not being quite right. Like you said, you couldn't be your full self. And then really importantly, this sort of loss of the joy and satisfaction that you were getting from your career as a dancer. Thank you so
Yes.
much.
Yeah.
Okay. Stephen, I'm going to move on to you. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience of REDS?
Oh, yeah, thank you for having me. Listening to Clara, there are just so many, um, similarities or different aspects that I can relate to. For me, it was more a case of going down a bit of a spiral, a bit of a rabbit hole, without realizing I had started that spiral. So when Clara mentions, starting to feel different things, even emotionally, I felt the same. I was starting to question my love of the art form, my love or desire to actually pursue this beautiful art form that it is and that it can be. So I was performing every major ballet I guess you would want to perform, and dancing with the most extraordinary ballerinas that you would want to dance with. But I was almost feeling empty after each performance. And it then started to have an impact, I was realizing, on my whole life. I didn't have any extra energy in reserve to go and enjoy the rest of the world that was out there whilst I wasn't working and performing. And I became a father as well around this same period. So, of course, any element of recovery time and trying to top up the energy levels was taken away. And in reflection, of course, at the time, I had no idea. I don't even think REDS had been published yet at this period of time. But at the time, I had no concept of it. I just assumed I was, time to move on, so to speak. And it was very much not that. I love this profession. I love this art form. It was very much a case of being so depleted that physically I was scraping by, but it was, I was clawing on. It was more the emotional toll at that point that I was more aware of, looking back now from where I am today. And I've had some big major injuries to really assess where I've come from and where I am now. It's really apparent to me that I was clearly in a state of REDS.
Thank you, Stephen. And I think that's so interesting. I mean, there are some similarities in your stories just in terms of, I suppose, noticing that loss of satisfaction with what you were doing in the studio and on stage, perhaps, and kind of feeling like, as you said, like you were scraping through. But I think it's also interesting that you talk about that there was this loss of ability to enjoy your life outside of dance too. And I wonder whether that's quite important because I think, that dancing is quite a physically demanding career. But actually, we should still have an expectation that we can engage in things outside of dance too, and that that we should be able to do that.
Especially, we are artists. So of course, I have this strong belief that we are artists who have to behave and treat our bodies like athletes. I really strongly believe that. It's our instrument, is our body, it's our tool. You only get one, so treat it like an elite athlete would. But we are artists, so we can't just be in the studio all day, every day, looking in a mirror, trying to strive for this unrealistic perfection. We have to have the energy to actually live a life that's bigger than just the ballet studio. But if you've given every ounce of you already in a state of energy deficiency, how on earth are you going to then, on your day off, go and explore the world, enjoy a beautiful meal with your friends and family? You will not do it. You don't want to do it. You want to go into preservation mode and switch off from the world. And that's not really what an artist wants to be doing. You want to be fueling yourself with the world around you.
Yeah, and I think all of us start, or most of us start dance as a form of expression and a way to access joy. I even have a friend that calls dance joy expressions. And so with that, like, it feels like when that is at risk because of the imbalance, this is a really clear signal to the person. And I was also reflecting on, Stephen, what you said about the spiral, and that maybe at a certain point, as dancers who are so used to having control over our physicality and our technique, the spiral actually feels like a loss of control. And maybe this is also a good signal to pay attention to.
Yeah, I think it's also sorry. So
I just wanted to
Go
say,
ahead,
this is kind of danger because, like you said, losing this control. It's common that athletes, or I guess dancers as well, try to get back control and start counting calories and really keeping an eye on nutrition, but in a controlling way, which is not always a healthy way. So here really you say this is a clear signal, and I would suggest talk, if you feel it, then just talk to a nutritionist or dietitian, someone who is really an expert in this field, and then you can have a good look at what you can control and if it's really about having control or feeling healthy.
Thank you. I think that's such a good point, Rika, and it really beautifully leads us into my next question, which is, I suppose I'm interested from your three different perspectives. Is there anything that we can be aware of or do that might help us prevent REDs, hopefully before we've gotten to that point actually where we're really, suffering from the impact of it, but maybe when we're sort of on the road a little bit, and as you said, Clara, that there's sort of collection of symptoms that are starting to sort of build up. So maybe Clara, I'll start with you for this one. So is there anything from your perspective that we could be aware of within our settings, maybe within our dance schools, the places that we're training, that we can be aware of to help us prevent getting to that place of REDs?
Certainly. Well, for me personally, and sort of the origin story of me coming to recognize and work through REDs was a summer intensive at American Ballet Theater. And they had various seminars throughout the summer intensive, and there was a nutritionist that came in to speak to us, to the dancers. And I was 16 at that time. And through that seminar, I realized, something's off here, and I'm not fueling myself in the way that this person, who also doesn't have a dance background, she wasn't connected to ballet. I felt there was some sort of also recognition there that, okay, this is a person that's also not interested in me looking a certain way, but she's interested in me being healthy. So after that seminar, I walked right up to her and I said, I think I need some help and I think I need to speak with someone. And that turned out to be one of the most important things I've ever done for myself in my life, and spurred relationships with nutritionists and therapists that I still see today. So I'm grateful to that 16-year-old self, and also to ABT for having those seminars for us. And I certainly believe that that has been impactful for other students as well.
Oh, thank you, Clara. So that kind of, I mean, it sort of fits with what Rika was saying about kind of, going to the experts, I suppose, and taking those opportunities. If you do have an expert in front of you who's giving you information and you sort of think, no, something's not quite right here, or you have a concern, that you pick up your courage and you go and ask for help. Thank you so much. Stephen, I'm gonna head over to you. Anything
Yeah,
similar, different?
I just love that Clara was able to, first of all, have the courage, but also to be honest with herself, to say something's not quite right here. And I think if we're all really truthful to ourselves, we're aware that something isn't, I hate to say the word normal, but as would be expected, or should be, so to speak. And I think that would be part of my look back at many of my situations that I ended up in. It's just having that ability to be honest with yourself, but also to be able to open yourself up to those around you. My family's all in Australia. I go years without seeing them in person. And this one particular year, I got off the plane. My mother gave me a hug and she cried, because she just said, where are you? Where have you gone? Like you've just disappeared. Because it was such a shock to her. She hadn't seen me in such a long time. But of course, I was already in that spiral. I was in my head flying high. I was dancing everything, and I was in control. I knew what I was doing. I thought I knew what I was doing, but I clearly was not allowing myself to open myself up to those around me. Of course, I shrugged off my mother's comment and thought, oh, she has no idea. She's on the other side of the world. She doesn't know what she's talking about. I wish I had been open a bit more at that point, and had some of Clara's courage, really, to say at that point, something's off here. I'm now grateful that I'm surrounded by an incredible medical team here at the Royal Ballet. And when I do have those moments of potentially slipping into a bit of one of those spirals, I'm very much aware that I can go to any member of this medical team and just say to them, something's a bit off here, or I've just had this thought, or this comment has been passed my way, whether that's by a colleague or obviously online, social media. People like to comment on people's bodies all the time. I'm now allowing myself to share that with the professionals. And I think that's, probably my biggest takeaway and advice is seek out professional help. Our ballet teachers are wonderful people, but they're not equipped to deal with all the other elements that go with your development as a human.
Thank you. So I mean, another vote for the kind of asking for help, picking up your courage, and going to the people who know about, who are the experts in this area. Rika, I'm going to head over to you to see if you have anything to add here in terms of, what we can do to prevent, to be aware of, or to help us prevent REDs from your perspective.
Yes, I think Clara and Stephen just said a lot and the most important things. And from the psychological side, I would like to add, work on your self-confidence. Just to be like Clara and have the courage to ask someone and to just speak about that feeling there is something going wrong. Because if you do not so, and if you're just hiding it, it probably get worse. And on the other side, I would like to break it down quite simply. Love your life. Love dancing. Love all which is in there. And probably it's not every training session, because there are sometimes training sessions that are really bad and you're feeling bad or whatever. But basically, you have to love it. And if this changes, then have the courage to speak to someone, and then have a check where it comes from and what can be changed to hopefully get back to that love that it once was.
Yeah, I think that's an important one, and it kind of reflects something that Stephen said earlier, which is, I suppose, if you notice yourself starting to avoid certain things in your life, you know, to kind of maybe avoid socializing, or kind of just the usual self-care things you do, or things that you do for fun, for pleasure, your hobbies, those sorts of things, that might be a bit of a concern, you know, that something's not quite right there.
Yeah,
So
when
you
you
know,
start to be in this dancing just like a profession, and sticking in there and losing fun from the stuff outside, then it's clearly a job, but you sometimes should see it like as it's just a job, and I have a life.
Mm. And obviously this is even more important for, you know, for the hopefully the people who are listening to this panel discussion, student dancers, because there's so much that's important in your life that you need to be engaging with in order to develop into a full, healthy adult. You know, certainly developing your social life, developing your hobbies and your interests, focusing on your schooling as well is all really important, and that we should have an expectation as student dancers that we can do that, that we don't have to sacrifice those things for our dance training. I have a question for you guys, and maybe particularly for Stephen and Clara, which is around maybe some of the sort of cultural aspects of dancer training in life, and you know, whether that maybe there's some things that we are contributing to as dancers that are kind of laying a foundation for REDs potentially. You know, I'm kind of thinking about, you know, things around how we talk about our bodies potentially, you know, maybe how we use comparison, you know, sort of, which is which is a really important learning tool, but it also can be quite destructive too, can't it? So I'm curious, maybe Claire, I'll go to you and just see if you have any thoughts on those or other cultural issues within dance training.
Certainly. I think that language and the language we use with each other, but also within these systems that surround young students and professional artists. I can remember particular incidents with costume designers or costume fitters that would compare the dancers' bodies to one another. And so I was thinking also in relation to what can we do to prevent REDs, and it would be, in my opinion, to provide education to everyone that is around the dancer. And so that it's not just the dancer themselves that has to learn and defend, but that everyone around them can understand what it is that is also weighing on their shoulders within this system that can be quite harmful right now at the time being. And so that we can prevent cases in which there are these like little phrases or languages that come up and that infiltrate into that dialogue, that inner dialogue.
Thank you. Yeah, so an important point there around that, you know, this needs to be kind of a shared responsibility, I guess. You know, it's not just all
Definitely.
on the shoulders of the individual dancer to kind of make yourself resilient and robust, but that as much as possible, we should also be kind of modeling how we want it to be at
Mhm.
our studios or our schools too. Stephen,
Definitely.
anything to add
Yeah,
there?
I think there are about two main things I'd like to focus on there. One of it is your self-worth. And your self-worth in our industry, especially as students, and then as you become a professional, you base your self-worth on how you look. And my advice for the young ones listening to this, please don't do that. You are so much more than just what you physically look like today. You're not going to look like that all the way through your life. Our bodies evolve, we change. And if you're putting your whole self-worth in what it is that you look like today or what you think you should look like tomorrow, it's such a waste of energy. Please, when you're watching your colleagues, your friends, artists you aspire to, forget about the body. Watch the artist. What is it about the artist that's making them so special? What is it that's making you want to watch that performance? Or perhaps, why are you not enjoying that performance so much? Remove the physical element away from your critique, I guess, or your definition of what makes a good dancer. So, for example, my own terminology with my colleagues, for example, has changed. Instead of, the typical reaction to somebody finishing a pas de deux or a solo or a performance, you would naturally say, "Oh, you looked so beautiful doing that." And that's just really reinforcing that it's all about how you look. And now I've completely flipped that. And of course, if I enjoyed something, I say, "Wow, I love the choices you made tonight," or "Wow, it was, that movement was so powerful," or "How you ripped my heart out at that moment." We're focusing on the art form, removing the physical measurement, I guess you would say, from it. We're all subject to it. Somebody has a beautiful foot, and of course you instantly think, "Oh, they're a great dancer." No, that's not the definition of an artist. So it's the same with our bodies as well. So that's my takeaway, I hope, for all of you from this. Don't put your self-worth or other people's self-worth in the physical being that's in front of you.
Thanks, Stephen. So there's just to draw some of the ideas out of, because there are some really nice ones there. There's something which is quite important about focusing more on function and feel, I suppose, like what the body does, the amazing things that your body can do, and trying to support it to do those amazing things. And maybe, as you say, when you're watching other people, that we slightly retrain ourselves from this, maybe possibly a little bit of a lazy comment of "you looked beautiful" to, what was it that moved you, or what were you impressed by, what was the functional thing that happened, or how did it make you feel, or those sorts of things. And the other one, which I thought was quite interesting there too, is just sort of, that thing of again modeling again, that it's about how we look at ourselves and talk about ourselves, but it's also how we talk to our friends and to our colleagues, and that's quite important too. So as much as possible, we want to kind of, walk walk the walk here. We sort of want to set the standard, and with much more of this focus on function and feeling, rather than something that you could do if you were just standing still. I mean, dance is a moving art form, isn't it? So maybe it's a focus on the moving aspect of it, rather than something that you could do if you were just standing in your costume. Clara, it looked like you were going to jump in there with something, so I just want to pull you in.
Yeah, I was just also, I wanted to comment and re-emphasize what Stephen said about feeling, because when you leave your career or after you stop dancing and performing, what you'll remember is the feeling of being on stage and how it felt in that moment to move and to dance. And this is what you want to hold on to, and this is what you want to fuel. So if you want to feel powerful and strong and graceful and beautiful and generous in your performance, then that's what you're fueling, is those feelings. So I really appreciate you bringing that forward.
Thank you. And Rika, I just wanted to bring you in because, I have a thought here, which is particularly for our audience, for student dancers, that there might be certain times in terms of their physical development when, they're maybe more at risk, or, because their bodies are changing really rapidly. Could you talk to us about that a little bit?
Yes, I think there are two moments. First of all is one that we all go through. It's puberty, because the body is changing there. You're growing up to become an adult, and hormones are coming in and changing, and it's the growing is not like you woke up one day and then you're bigger and everything is done. It's coming slowly and not all at the same time. So you feel ridiculous. Sometimes you have the feeling you look ridiculous because your arms are growing, but not the rest of your body, or stuff like that. And then again, it comes what Stephen says. If you just look at your looking, and all your self-worth is going to how you look, this would feel really bad. And of course, we all know puberty is strange because even the mind is developing and it's not that easy. So of course, puberty is a really crucial time, and even for developing REDs. And the second time, which has a higher risk for developing REDs, is every injury. Because if you're injured, you're not allowed to train. And that might lead to the opinion, if you're not training, you can take out so much energy, so you should eat less and take less energy in. And this is not healthy, because for I don't know in the moment the right English word, I'm sorry, but for getting healthy, you need energy as well. So you
for
have
recovery, for injury recovery.
Thank you. For your recovery, you have to nutrition yourself the right way. So again, there is a high risk to come to that REDs.
Thank you. So I think that's, so the two things there, just to make sure we're clear, is one is sort of during puberty. So we're having a lot of rapid, and again, it looks slightly different for everyone as well. So within a dance system, a dance school or a studio or something like that, this might be another moment where it's really not helpful to compare yourself to other people, because everyone's going to be developing through puberty at different rates. So that can be a moment that we're a little bit at higher risk. And the other one, which I hadn't thought about, but it's it makes a lot of sense what you're saying, is in injury. So not only is REDs puts us at higher risk of developing an injury, but actually if we become injured, we also are at higher risks of potentially developing REDs. That's great. Thank you. And I just Stephen, I just want to pull you in, because I know you mentioned in your introduction that you've had some experience with some quite big injuries. I mean, do you have any thoughts on this in terms of, obviously you've had to become quite expert around your recovery and doing what you need to do to help your body to recover well from injury. So I'm just wondering if this is triggering anything for you.
Yeah, it was really, I'm going to be honest, it was a really challenging, I guess, prospect of, as Rika says, you're injured, you're not doing anywhere near the activity. I mean, I couldn't walk for an entire year with my Achilles tendon that had snapped. So your brain instantly goes, oh, I should reduce everything. But of course, my whole body needed to rebuild. My tendons had to reform. There are structures that need to be fueled even more. So thankfully, again, I had that support of the medical team. And did I gain weight? Of course I gained weight, because I was unable to move for so long. But the weight I gained was recharging my body. It was rebuilding my body. Did it stop me from performing? No. But if I hadn't fueled my body, there was not a chance that Achilles was going to have the best opportunity to repair itself as it should. I'm a young male that has been physical all my life, so I should have made a good recovery. But if I hadn't fueled it correctly, there was no chance. The challenge was that I had to have the self-courage, going back to Clara's earlier comment, that I knew I was doing the right thing for my body. So when uneducated comments were thrown my way about the way I looked, I had to then have my shield on and say, that's fine, that's your opinion, I'm going to let you have that view, but I'm doing what is best for my Ferrari. I treat my body like a Ferrari. If you put rubbish in a Ferrari, doesn't matter how beautiful that car is, it's not going to function. And your body's the same. Treat your body like the most beautiful car that's ever been created. Fuel it with the best possible fuel that you can do. But it takes courage to do that. And I mean, look at me, I'm not the size of a house, but I'm far healthier than I was before I entered those injury times.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Stephen. So that's such an important point and a kind of personal one there. And, you know, from your own personal experience around just how crucial it is to make sure, you know, when the body's doing the hard work of healing, it needs all the help it can get. So,
Can I
you
just
know,
also say,
yeah.
just while we're talking about, you know, obviously we're talking about body image, and we're here, it's a physical profession, it's an aesthetic profession. But if you just look at my own company I'm involved with the Royal Ballet, if you look at the history of the company, all these iconic works that have been created with this company across the decades and decades with different choreographers, if you look at all those dancers that they were created on, there is not a single body type that you can say that's what a dancer should look like. So we need to make sure, all of you young dancers listening to this, there is no such thing as this ideal ballet type that some ballet god has determined to be how you should look. All those iconic roles were created on ballerinas and male dancers of all heights, shapes, power, vulnerability, everything. So you as an artist, you were given this machine, this instrument, nurture it. It doesn't matter if you're 6 foot, 4 foot. No one cares about what you weigh. What the audience cares that you rip their heart out. So please don't waste the energy on comparing yourself, thinking that you need to look like that or like that, because look around you, look at all these extraordinary artists in companies around the world. They're so unique, they're so different. There's a place, honestly, for everybody.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you. I think it's such an important point. And I want to move on to, and you both have spoken about this a little bit, but just to give you an opportunity, if there's anything in addition that you want to add for Clara and for Stephen, you know, what you did to help yourself when you realized something wasn't right. So obviously it required that first kind of step of asking for help. But what then? You know, and what happened next? And you know, in what different ways were you able to help yourself on your own and maybe with the help of others, experts in particular? Clara, should we start with you?
Sure thing. Yeah, so it started with, you know, self-honesty and looking inside. And then over the years, it looked like being honest with all of the people around me and all of the people that were in my corners and ready to support me. And Stephen, going back to what you said about having to trust that fueling yourself was the right choice and like fight off the comments from other people. That's because also you had the health team in your corner, and there are people that were like, yes, this is the right choice for you. And so that honesty there and using that support, the encouragement from those that are around you, and continuing to share in a sense of vulnerability of what is hard in the moment and what is making you feel maybe that you're at risk of falling into some dangerous habits or behaviors. It's really continuing that honesty with your community and with your loved ones.
Thank you. I love that idea of having these people in your corners that are kind of, and obviously those are, you know, those are well chosen people, I'm guessing. So people who
Yeah.
also believe in your goal of being healthy and
Yeah.
you know, and having been able to dance whilst healthy. What about you, Stephen? Anything in addition there?
Yeah, I think it's also for my own journey, I've learned that it's not, you can't just find a simple solution to fix it. It's a constant process. I'm constantly challenging myself, making sure I'm not allowing myself to slip into those habits. I've not just flicked a switch and it's gone. So I think maybe it's also worth just saying our life, I'm not just talking about our career, our life, it's a constant journey. So maybe take the pressure off yourself a little bit by saying, you don't have to have all the solutions right now, and those solutions will adapt and change as well as you go throughout, obviously graduating and joining a company, and then the next chapters and next chapters. So by me saying to myself, I know I don't have all the solutions, but I am making steps, I'm trying to make those improvements, that has really helped, because I'm never going to have all the solutions.
Yeah. Yeah. So kind of being a bit patient with yourself, I suppose, and giving yourself permission to not get it all right all the time, right away.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems really important. Rika, have you got anything there just in terms of ways that dancers can help themselves when they realize that things aren't right?
You know, when I were listening, it was just like you're allowed to make mistakes. Like Stephen said, you don't have to have all the solutions right now. You can work on it. And this means you make different experiences. Sometimes this works better, and the other time this doesn't work anymore. So you have to find something new. And again, it's about being honest to yourself, asking for help, and again, enjoy your life and seeing it as a journey, and just going on, and be curious what's coming next and what you can improve and what you can experience next. And as well, I was thinking it is kind of similar to burnout. If you're doing too much or giving too much pressure on it, it's not working anymore. So you have to find a good balance for everything, like being curious who you really are. And it's not just a dancer, it's more than a dancer. And you have to balance that. I guess this is for even for prevention, and also for healing or therapy, a good thing to keep in mind.
Thank you. I have a really specific question for the group, and it's something that we talked about a little bit before we hit record, but it's about maybe some of the specific challenges of dance education settings, and and obviously this is going to look slightly different for everyone who's listening to this, because some of you might be in vocational schools where you have your academics and your dance training all combined in one place. Some of you might be doing those things separately. But what it probably means is that you have quite a full schedule, that you have a longer day than a regular academic day if you weren't doing such intensive dance training. And I wonder, as student dancers, what we can do to help ourselves to make sure that we actually practically are fueling ourselves during the day, when we're having maybe longer days than many people, and quite intense physical days as well. Any thoughts on that one?
So for me, it would be, again, see the experts.
Yeah.
So far as I know, our nutritionists are really good in those things, because again, you can't have, if you have just a break in between school and dancing session, you can't eat what all the other students are eating. You can't eat with much like fries or something. So you won't be feeling good dancing after that. So you have to really think about what can you eat at which time, and what feels good, and are you capable really just to eat. And that would be good to talk about this with someone who's really an expert for this.
Yeah, so it might require a little bit of expert help, maybe, to look at your day, and how you can make sure that you're fitting in enough sort of meals and snacks and things like that, and of the type of things that are really going to efficiently fuel you, hopefully be delicious as well.
Yeah.
But that it might not be realistic to do a kind of very traditional sort of 3 big meals a day sort of thing, that it's going to look slightly different for everyone depending on their schedule and their needs. Yeah, okay, great. A question for Stephen and Clara, and you've been, both of you, really honest, I suppose, in terms of your own personal experience of REDs, but also that it's kind of not something that you can just switch a switch, and and it's kind of like it's totally over. You know, like when you continue to do a career which is physical and aesthetic, that you know, we kind of need to, I suppose, sort of stay on top of things and make sure that we're treating ourselves well, so that we have the energy that we need to do really demanding careers. So can you just talk a little bit about, you know, what are the things that continue to help you to recover from REDs? Maybe I'll start with you, Clara.
Hmm. Yeah, for me, I think it would be centering myself in the things that bring me joy, and the things that fuel my heart, mind, and soul, and the things that I find inspiration from. Even listening to Rika talking about like where can you fit in the nutrition and the fuel for your body on the physical level. I feel like it's also the same in terms of finding and fitting in the things that inspire you and fuel your heart. And so doing that is really important to me. And even in the busy life that came after my performance career, making sure that I have the things that that remind me of who I am as a person, and not just as like, you know, an activist or an artist or a employee, but definitely as a dancer. That practice started when I was a dancer, to find the things that gave me joy outside of dance.
So this kind of making space and prioritizing reconnecting with the stuff that recharges our batteries, you know, whether that's at the inspirational level, the energy level, of those sorts of things, that we really prioritize that. Thank you. And Stephen, what about you?
Yeah, I have got much better at being more efficient with my time. Obviously, as young dancers, you're told you've got to go to that class and go to that class, go to that class. But you also then, if you do have a half-hour break or something like that, you see many dancers still lingering in the studio. They'll repeat something over and over and over again for that maybe 25 minutes and then quickly grab a quick snack. But they've just finished a class. Now, I love that people are passionate and want to keep working on things, but do the work in the class. That break is there for a reason. So if you are given a break by your school, your company, take the break. Go and fuel. It doesn't matter if it's a 3-course meal or some other well-advised snack, but take the break and be efficient with your time. So in rehearsal, don't just repeat something for the sake of repeating it. Do it well, talk about it, come back tomorrow. Be efficient. And then you then carry that on to all your other things. So with your academic studies, for example, be efficient with your time. Set yourself those moments and say, okay, I'll get it done in this time and that time, that allows me the time to switch off at that point. I can go and cook my meal. I can put Netflix on, watch something that's got nothing to do with the world of ballet. Otherwise, it becomes so all-consuming, and you do have some opportunities in there to refuel. You just have to allow yourself to do it, as opposed to going to that dancer mentality of, oh, I've got a break, so I should be practicing something. No, the break is there for you.
Yeah, so giving yourself permission to really detach from what you're doing, take the break, do something else with that time, which is nourishing you in a different way.
And especially the weekends, for example, a day off, 2 days off. Oh my gosh, like you're not going to forget how to dance. It's okay. Your body's allowed to take more than 12 hours rest.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and that makes me think, that precise phrase, like it's okay, reminds me of a nutritionist once told me that, like whatever it is, that if you eat something that is, quote, bad, which I'm not sure I believe in that, but that you will be okay. And if you take the break, you will be okay. And if you feel full, if you feel like maybe you ate something and it's not sitting right and it's prevented, like, you will be okay. And you will be able to move forward, and you will continue to dance, and you will be healthier, and it will all be okay. And it might feel like in the moment it's a really big deal, but in the long run, you'll be okay.
And again, this is the same If you're injured, just take your break. You will be okay. And even if you had a bad training session, you will be okay. Tomorrow it's probably going better. So just relax. Don't take it too serious. And maybe it's again about self-confidence, being
Yeah.
aware that it will be okay.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So this sort of this giving ourselves permission and also giving ourselves and our bodies time to sort of recover and process whatever we've learned and experienced that day, um, and to prioritize the things outside. So we have about 10 minutes left. I want to make sure that we kind of leave everyone with some key takeaways before we go. And there, I thought I might start us off because there were a couple of really strong themes that seem to be coming through in our discussion today. But I also want to give the three of you the opportunity to give us, if there are other takeaways that are important. I mean, one thing that seems to have been said a number of times was to seek out experts. If you think that something's wrong, to ask for help. And it may be depending on what training setting you're in, that you go to the trusted adult that's nearest you to do that. But ideally, you're going to someone who has specialist expertise, a dietitian, nutritionist, depending on the kind of situation, what's available to you. So there's something here about really kind of inviting experts. And also the point that you made, Clara, which was so powerful in terms of, I suppose, the first time that you asked for help is that we really accept experts into our dance spaces and settings as well and engage with them when they come in. That's a great opportunity for student dancers to learn and educate ourselves, but also to have access to experts. So that feels like it's quite an important one. And I loved your point that you made, Claire, around kind of identifying people in your life who can support you, who are in your corner, so to speak, so that they can help you to be at your best as a dancer. I'm just gonna maybe go to you one at a time and see if there's anything that you have in addition to those 2 points. So maybe Rika, I'll start with you. If you have a kind of key takeaway for student dancers.
Should I break it down again to enjoy your life?
Yeah.
I really like that because once you've started with dancing, you probably did it because you had that special feeling when you're dancing. And just make sure that you keep this feeling.
Yeah, so if you find yourself kind of losing that joy and enjoyment that you're getting, that might be a bit of a sign that something's not right. So you kind of make sure that you're seeking that out. Thank you so much, Lika. Stephen, I'm gonna go to you next.
Yeah, I honestly just wish that all the young people listening to this will put the energy into themselves. Don't waste your energy focusing on everybody else, what everybody else looks like. You are you. Fuel yourself, put the energy into yourself, be the unique artist that you can be. The whole dance world needs a full rainbow of the world on that stage. So there is a place for you somewhere. Don't try and force yourself into some made up mold of what you think the ballet world needs. And back to the point about seeking out proper support and advice. Instagram is not the place for that. Don't get sucked into the world of made up experts. Seek an actual expert. The world of dance is a beautiful thing, but the world of dance can learn from people outside of the world of dance. So be open to that. People from all backgrounds can help you become the artist you want to be.
Wonderful. Thank you. Such an important point about kind of seeking out expertise in the real world rather than just online and particularly on Instagram. Clara, I'm
Jaimie,
gonna come to
when
you.
I'm
Oh,
allowed,
yes.
can I just add something?
Yes, of
When
course.
I'm working with my athletes, I always say you have a safety net, and this safety net is probably your family and your friends. So for you young students, please be aware that you all have a safety net, and take care sometimes, just look if the safety net is still working, and just put some energy in the safety net. And there will be some times in every career when it's not working out well, when you're struggling, when you have some problems. And at that time, you will need this safety net. So always have some time to work on that safety net and your social life and your family and your friends.
Such an important point. Thank you. Yeah, so focus on our safety net, and that's likely to be our friends and our family and maybe some of our close people within the dance world as well. Lovely. Clara, on to you.
Yeah, really following in what both Rika and Stephen have said. I hope that you learn to be your own best advocate now and as a student, because you'll need that for the rest of your life. And if you believe in your own right to health and your right to perform at your highest capacity, then learning now to advocate for yourself and your health will only strengthen the possibilities you have in your future. And also just imagine what is possible for you and for ballet, for dance, if everyone is fueled and able to balance the energy that they take in and the energy they put out. So the future feels bright with that in mind.
Wonderful. That's a beautiful place to finish, Clara. Thank you. I love that. Just imagine the possibilities of a dance world where we have already extraordinary people that are also consistently well fueled. Just imagine what we can do. Well, as we come to the end of the hour, I want to first thank everyone, thank all three of you for your honesty and your insights today. I've learned a lot. I hope that our audience has learned a lot as well. So thank you, Rika, Clara, and Stephen. It's been wonderful spending some time with you. And I also want to thank our audience. Thanks for giving us your time. Hopefully, you'll be leaving this session with a little bit more information about REDs, a little bit more information about what you can do, what you have the right to do as a student dancer to prioritize your health. And what I would say is, for anyone who's watching this discussion who maybe has any feedback for us on this discussion we had today, or any questions that we haven't addressed, you can find a link to a short survey in the description below the video. So please do link into that, complete the short survey if you have time, and there's some space there for you to ask questions. If we receive questions we can answer, we're hoping to do a follow-up video with some of our experts from the 3 different panels for the Awareness Week, where we can answer some specific questions that come in. So please do that. And thank you again, Rika, Stephen, and Clara, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Bye.